Hi folks, hope you're okay today. We're just having a few thoughts, a few videos on Bonhoeffer, and just talking about what Bonhoeffer means to me. In this work, this is a biography, this is the biography of Bonhoeffer. We read in page 133, Bonhoeffer now tackles Heidegger more thoroughly, being in time appeared in 1927. Hans Christoph and von Haas, who attended Heidegger's lectures in Marburg, had already asked impatiently in Barcelona whether his cousin was finally reading the book. In the index to Act and Being, Heidegger took second place, only to Luther, even before Barth, Husserl, Scheler, Griesbach and Tillich were also discussed. Bonhoeffer criticized Bultmann for his dependence on Heidegger. One of the things I like about Bonhoeffer is he held to traditional theology such as like Lutheran theology, but he was able to engage with philosophy and theologians that were from a different tradition than him. And I've always maintained that you can be a Bible-believing Christian and solid in the Bible, but it's always good to study other theologians. You don't have to agree with them. And to study philosophy, you don't have to agree with philosophy. But it's good to engage and to think through things and to know why you believe what you believe and why it's biblical. So he was a very highly cultured theologian, and yet he was very highly biblical, and that's what inspires me with Bonhoeffer. Hi folks, this is Jason. Hope you're okay today. We're looking at Bonhoeffer and what he means to me. He said this, my parents remained with me on board for 2 hours. So far the days have been like being on the one sea, totally calm, and my cabin lies deep in the belly of the ship. I have not yet met my travelling companion face to face. I've been trying to form a picture of him from the things he leaves lying about. The hat, walking stick, and novel by Seymour have led me to the conclusion he is an educated young American. I have already eaten 2 huge meals with a good appetite, and I shall go on enjoying the ship as long as enjoyment is possible. And he's writing while he's going to America. From 1930 to 1931 he spent some time in America, and he went and did some study at Union Theological Seminary, and he got involved in the black community nearby. And what impressed me with him is he was brought up in a very exclusive, higher echelons of intellectual elites in Germany, and yet he was able to mix with the black community in America and learn from them. So I like the eclectic cultural appreciation that Bonhoeffer had of other people who were different from him. So that's what impressed me about it. Hi folks, we're looking at what Bonhoeffer means to me, and we're just looking at him when he was at the Finkenwald Seminary in 1936 to 1937. And Finkenwald was a theological seminary where Bonhoeffer was the principal. At that time, when he was the principal, the Nazis were at full swing. They were controlling everybody, taking pastors, arresting them, and so it was very difficult for Bonhoeffer to function as a principal, and it was very difficult for the students to study because they took a stand against Hitler and the Nazis. And in that time, Bonhoeffer wrote a book called Life Together, and it's a beautiful devotional work, and it's his ideas about how to bring community together, how to have community. And there's beautiful little quotes in that where he talks about, just off the top of my head, where he says, he who makes the church his salvation will lose his salvation. In other words, people who try to take from the church will lose in the end, that you've got to go with an attitude of giving. And there's beautiful tips about handing the day to God. If the day gets disturbed, may see that God's in that. And so it's a beautiful work, and I really hold that book dear, Life Together. It's a little bit naive. It's written by a theologian in the context of a theological seminary. It's not written for the real world, as it were, but you can still get a lot out of it, and it's a rich book to read, Life Together. Hi folks, we're looking at Bonhoeffer, what he means to me, and we're going to finish off what he means to me. There's a book that he wrote called Cost of Discipleship, and that book was written before the storm of the Nazis. He could see the Hitler come into power, and he could see the challenges of the Nazis and how they were demonizing Jewish people. So Bonhoeffer wrote Cost of Discipleship to galvanize the Christian church to action, to stand up against the political powers that were doing the evil that they were doing. And it's an exposition of the Sermon on the Mount, and it's a very, very powerful book, very powerful. And there are some great gems, great quotes in that book. But that book means a lot to me because it's so wise, and it inspires people to action, to not live a life where you're in your own little bubble, but that you're willing to actually make a stand against things that are not right. Hi folks, hope you're okay today. We're just finishing our last video on Bonhoeffer. I think then the last thing that comes to my mind is about Bonhoeffer is the last days. He got arrested because he was involved in a plot to kill Hitler. And the things that I remember about Bonhoeffer is being in his cell. I was reading his prison letters some time ago, and I pictured him in his cell, and he had a girlfriend, a sweetheart, who he wanted to marry, but he couldn't marry because he was in the cell. And while he was in the cell, he found the Psalms a great help to him. But he was also wrestling with great intellectual issues about modernity and how that related to faith. Theologians have debated what that means for the church. Was he moving towards a secularism and moving away from theology, or was he trying to look at theology in a different way? And he was trying to work through those issues. And I think we've all worked through those issues of where do we relate to in modernity. And his prison letters are very, very moving. A solitary man in prison, waiting for his death. And that impresses me, that he was a man of conviction. He was sustained by the Bible. He was wrestling deeply with big issues, theological issues. And at the same time, he was willing to die for what he believed. And he was a very courageous man. Dietrich Bonhoeffer. Thanks for listening. Take care.